Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back with another live stream of Hearthstone. We've got a new person on the chat named Barley. He just said, I subbed by the way, not shouting, just autocorrect. That's fine. Like, I've never really had a problem with people typing in capitalization. It just kind of makes it easier for me to read. Like, I have bigger issues with spammers and things like that. So today I have to get all of the daily quests done because that gets all the daily quests done. So when I come back on Monday, I'll have 2 daily quests to do. And because of that, I need to get 4 more Tavern Brawl victories, which is going to be kind of difficult. I'm surprised I even got 1. But we'll hop into it and keep doing it. We also need to play some spell cards, which with this Tavern Brawl is not going to be a big issue at all. Let's see. I still have a decent amount of video game news. I took a little bit of a break at the end of the last recording and spent a big part about covering just a job application. I probably should keep the job applications till the end of the news. That's probably something that I'd probably like to get more feedback on too, is like, if I read job applications at all, should I do them at the beginning or the end? Or maybe in the middle. Probably in the middle. There's different types of news too, and if I spent the extra effort and sorted it out, which is kind of a waste of time right now to do, I would talk about job game announcements at the very end because there's very little information, and then I would talk about bigger stories that aren't particularly related to games, like when people have been fired or hired, or companies get purchased or go out of business. Those type of things should be the first to talk about, almost certainly. Let's see. Nobody, no. Barley says, I get what you mean by you record your streams in the bits. Yeah, I break up the recording things. What to do? To re-release them, and that's why my Hearthstone series on my channel is up to, what is it up to? It's up to somewhere around 760 45-minute to an hour long plus episodes. And so every day, if somebody's missing my Monday, Wednesday, and Friday live streams, which is something newer that I really should have been doing live streaming from day 1 when I started my channel 2 years ago, and it would have been really smart if I had started my channel a lot earlier than that too. Because I feel if I had started my channel like 5 or 10 years ago, I probably would be very well known. I don't know if I'm ever going to be super popular. There certainly is a level there where, like, I get it. Some people aren't going to like how I do things, or how I talk, or that I have no face cam, or that sometimes I'm constantly talking about video games instead of just going quiet. There's certainly a lot of people out there that just want that silent, no commentary style of gameplay on games, and that's something that I don't think should be even allowed because it's not fair use in the copyright sense, and it's something that isn't very creative, so it's not something I'd want to do. So I'd be happy with, like I said before, 100,000 subscribers and being a moderately popular thing. I have run into several channels, not all video game related, where I really don't like the person that I keep getting suggested videos from, but I do like the content they're talking about. So like I keep ending up watching their videos even though I really don't like them and I find them boring. I often find people can be repetitive and say the same thing over and over again. I'm not immune from that. I do that a lot too. I say a lot, and when I start thinking about saying I say a lot. I was actually watching CNN a few weeks ago, and I started hearing that even the CNN news anchors were saying and if you don't pay attention to it, you don't see it, but once you start realizing you're saying it, you start saying it more and more, and it's, you know, I'm doing it right now. And certainly if I didn't do long plays of my coverage of games and just cut out the interesting parts, I could cut out all the ums and the uhs and make myself sound very articulate. If you go back and look at like an X-Play review is a good example of that. Yeah, and X-Play is a very old video game reviewing show, but that's not anywhere anymore. But they were clearly getting in a sound booth and reading their review word for word and cutting out all of the uhs and ums and making it sound way too good considering it was just a video game review. Let's see. Barley says, the thing I like is when people don't have cams because the cam gets annoying. Plus, I talk about a lot of video games too, so you're not the only one. Yeah. Yeah, I don't see the reason for the cams, and the only time I do see a reason for cams, it's because it's some large-breasted lady who's managed to put the camera at such an angle so that they can get cleavage in every single thumbnail. Maybe if you're doing something like comedy and you're full on screen and talking about games, that makes a little bit of sense. But most of the Hearthstone players, they're just putting a cam in the corner. Usually they're just putting it in the corner to block the chat from popping up. Which you can mostly fix that just by being busy. It works. It should work all the time, but it doesn't work if you're labeled busy and you go to different servers for some reason. Creperian is a great example of a person who has no need for a cam at all. Like, if you watch him, he's just sitting in that chair being bored. They get cams because they have the DX Racer car racing chairs, and they've got to show off that DX Racing chair because they're actually secretly sponsored by DX Racer. And there are other people though that seem to like it. I just don't I don't like it as an idea, and I don't think I'd ever do a cam. I want to focus on the video game more. Let's see. Now, when I did E3, I kind of did something like a cam because I was playing the video of E3 in the top left while playing Hearthstone, and that worked moderately well, except for when Ubisoft did the Mario and Raving Rabbids, and then Ubisoft's trailer for their game got claimed by Nintendo of Japan somehow on YouTube, because Nintendo, particularly Nintendo of Japan, does not follow fair use at all, and they are awful. Let's see. They've got the chat now changed. Let's see. Is that really your... That's not your ID. You haven't typed that right. Barley's asking me if he wants to friend me. Sure, you can type in, come over here, click add friends, and type in RYDO #1423, and I will accept that friend request. What you typed in on the chat was Blizzard1234, and there is no way whatsoever that is your name, because there's no $, and if that was the case, that I imagine what you just typed in was your password to Blizzard, and you probably need to change your password to battle.net and get the two-factor authenticator set up while you're at it. It is Blizzard1234. There has to be a $ afterwards. There has to be a $. So if your account is Blizzard1234, there's also a $ and 4 other numbers that I guarantee are not 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll see it. We'll see it if you add me. We'll see it. Assuming you're on the Americas account, we'll see it here. Otherwise, whenever I get over to the European or Asian account, we'll see it then. Battle.net is one of the worst systems to friend people. It's integrated with basically nothing, and the chat system is they're working on it to improve, but it's not great. I don't chat with anybody through Battle.net anyways. I just let people friend me and then I play them. And frankly, people that do friend me on Hearthstone, a lot of them get bored and quit really quickly. Like, you get a lot of people that are last online more than a month ago, simply because Hearthstone is not very friendly to new players. Let's see. I don't know the numbers then. Well, Barley says it's not my password. Okay, that's good. You can find your numbers. Click here. It shows them. That's your numbers. That's what you gotta know.
Can I light your fire?
There we go. I guess this video game article isn't really any news. It's just kind of an advertisement hidden as news. There's way too much of that in the video game reporting industry. This is news though. Capcom has confirmed that its new Switch games in the work. It has new Switch games in the works, which is not super surprising because all the Japanese companies are now rushing to make Switch games now that they feel like it's been proven a success. Let's see. Including an Ace Attorney game. What's the other one it's making? For fiscal year 2018, Capcom, one of the games is Ace Attorney. What are the other games? I guess it doesn't mean anything else. Let's see. Other things that they've released on the Switch in the West have been Street Fighter: The Final Challengers, the company's HD 3DS port of Monster Hunter XX, and let's see. Other things that's released in 2017 were Resident Evil 7, Okami HD, which is coming to PC, and I'm excited about that. Let's do this, and this, and this. Clear the board. Mega Man Legacy Collection, the Disney Afternoon Collection. So, I don't think any of those games have come to the Switch, but they probably will. It'll be odd to see Resident Evil 7 on the Switch. That would be a weird one. Let me look at the chat again. I'll add you tomorrow because right now it's 12:30 a.m. for me, so yeah, I'm gonna keep watching and chatting now. Okay, fine. I'll accept you on Monday if your request is there.
What to do? What to do?
Because I don't like touching Hearthstone on the days I don't stream. Those are the times when I have to struggle to pre-record other things, other games. Let's see. What this really says that the Ace Attorney game is coming to the Switch over the 3DS is that the 3DS is going to probably by the end of 2018 not have any games released for it at all, which I find believable. So according to this article from PC Gamer, Samsung's GDDR6 memory, I'm so used to saying DDR5, I almost said it there, which is graphics double dynamic rate 6, which might mean it's 12 times the original frequency of the original RAM. Anyways, this article is saying that the memory is shaping up to be even faster than expected, which means the next generation of video cards that have GDDR6 in it are going to be able to load textures faster, which is important because textures are also taking up more space.
Can I light your fire?
As we get into 4K and 8K graphics, which honestly I'd prefer if the video game industry took a breather and didn't get into 4K and 8K graphics and instead just made their games less buggy. So the company's memory will be faster and more powerful than 10 gigabits per second GDDR5, which is what they're using in graphics cards right now. It is worth pointing out that you're probably not running GDDR5 memory in your computer, and so the RAM in your computer could certainly benefit from going up to 5 too. GDDR4 specifications are odd and low, and they need to be improved upon and haven't been for many years. Instead, they introduced the Intel Extreme Memory Performance Profiles, XMP. Now a year later, Samsung has said that they've managed to bump it up to 16 gigabits per second. That is a massive amount of improvement for the memory. Yep. And I desperately, personally need to buy a new video card because the GTX 970 that I use actually has a small amount of slower memory that causes a lot of games to crash and have bugs. and they pretty much false advertised the product, and they're supposed to send me back like $30 in a class action settlement, and yeah, I'm never gonna see that money. So for reference, the GeForce GTX 1080 Ti has 11 gigabits per second GDDR5X. If I buy an 1180 Ti when that comes out, which would be nice, but it probably would also be close to $1,000, you're potentially going to see 16 gigabits per second in that RAM and that graphics memory, which is super helpful, depending on how the games are programmed. A lot of games, particularly older ones, are programmed just to have hard delays in the loading screen, so no matter how new your computer or equipment is, you still end up waiting the same amount of time anyways. And that kind of sucks, but then some games aren't programmed that way, and they'll just run, and hopefully most modern games aren't programmed that way, and we'll see games that take 2-3 minutes to load into a level now, maybe 4 years from now, take 5 seconds to load into a level, and that certainly would be nice. Ah, let's look at the chat. Let's see, Barley says, I like when channels and that popular because it's easier to talk to the person streaming, not saying you're not popular. So, and sorry if I'm typing or going off topics loads. That you can type or say anything you want as long as it's within the rules. That's why what I love about chat is I love about the thing I love about the chat is that they talk about things that won't come to my head, so I don't have to talk about the same thing over and over again. Let's see. Click another victory. Can't believe that. So yeah, if somebody wants me to talk about cats, I don't know a lot about cats, but I could try, and it would at least cause me to probably for the first time in my life ever talk about cats. Let's see. Samsung is also saying that GDDR6 is going to use less power, operating at 1.35 volts versus the 1.5 volts that GDDR5 uses. And that is pretty typical in the Moore's Law level of improvement of PC components, that everything gets faster and everything uses less power, and there's kind of a reason for that, but it would be hard to explain. So Samsung is promising a lot. However, it is worth pointing out that Samsung is also kind of guilty of, or at least they're accused of collaborating with other memory creators to keep prices high, and that's why we really haven't seen as much progress or any price drops in RAM lately. But we do need that memory to be faster. We also kind of need SSDs to be bigger and faster too. Probably bigger than anything, than faster. Let's see. Just attack there. But yeah, I look forward to the GTX 1180 when it comes out, and I hope I can afford it. Oops, this is just a picture. So let me see if I can make a news story out of a single image from Twitter. Apparently, Sony Interactive Entertainment Europe has copyrighted a computer game under the name Siphon Filter. So they're trying to get a copyright of the phrase Siphon Filter, which means that maybe there's going to be a new Siphon Filter game out there at some point. Let's see, this in the turn. Let's see. Let's see. Barley said, sorry, I accidentally clicked out of the video when going to type. Smiley face, that's alright. Yep. There's a lot of weirdness, to get back to what Barley said before about like smaller channels that aren't that popular because you can't actually talk with the people. There's a ton of weirdness that goes on there because it has this tendency to make people easily confuse themselves that they're becoming friends with the streamer, or that that the stream is in the power of that one viewer. The people that chat are often just like maybe 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 100 people actually bother to chat, and then there's 9 or even 99 other people that are watching the stream, and so you have to balance that as the actual streamer to make sure you're staying on track and doing what you want to do as the creator of the video.
Shields up.
And then it gets into a weirder point because as soon as you get big, you have to abandon chat for the most part. You can have chat streaming all day and all long, but then the only thing you can really do is embrace something like YouTube's Super Chat, which YouTube takes 30% of anything people donate on Super Chat, or you take something like Streamlabs or some other service that doesn't take as big of a cut as YouTube and allows people to donate to get their message seen, which then gets a little sleazy too, because then you're forcing people to pay you to respond to them, but it's really the only thing you can do once you have like 100,000 people watching your streams and 10,000 people just making your chat fly by. It also is part of the reason why I only live stream Hearthstone, but I play so many other games, is I simply couldn't pay attention to the chat, even with only 1 or 2 people on the chat in most games. Hearthstone's the only game that I literally just don't care enough about to sit here and try and win. And since it's a game that's designed to give you at best a 50% win ratio, that's their goal in developing Hearthstone. You can just kind of ignore it and keep playing it, and worst case scenario, this rope comes out while you're doing something else. But as long as my channel stays small, I can interact and appreciate the chat, and I can and then learn from that and hopefully become a better presenter. Yep. Barley says, no, I'm not saying you need to be my friend or the chat is all about me. No, I'm not saying that it's you either. I'm just saying I've seen that many, many times. And it goes in weird directions because once you have to lay down the law and go, look, this is my stream to people like that, then all of a sudden they get mad at me, and then I end up having to ban them for harassing or spamming, just being rude. The turn can be very abrupt and sharp. I imagine people that do that are younger. I would hope it's younger people, and it's not like 40-year-old adults that think they can backseat drive. But I've seen it a lot, and that's why I've recently kind of updated my rules and never really got any feedback on them to make it more clear what the positions are. But that's true for like bigger celebrities too. There's plenty of people that listen to like their favorite music artist and then they think they're friends with them. Some people just are prone to delusional thinking. Let's see. Let's kill that. Let's attack here. Let's attack here.
In the light's name.
Let's attack there. There. Next video game news article we have Discord's announced a new rich presence that promises to simplify spectating and playing with friends. Let's watch that video and see what they're promising to do. I set up a Discord for at the request of some people that were on chat, and none of those people have chatted with me. And I never really did anything with Discord. Frankly, it doesn't seem like it's a product that quite makes sense as running your own, like, when I'm not streaming chat, and it doesn't quite integrate with YouTube and in an effective and helpful way. Like, honestly, when you chat on YouTube, it tells YouTube that my videos are worth watching. When you chat on Discord, it tells YouTube nothing. And so, like, the only time I'd want people chatting on my Discord is if I wasn't streaming, and I think I have it set up, but I probably will reintroduce the concept of having a Discord once Discord has more features, and once I have a lot more people that want something like that. And it seems more like it's a replacement for Skype than it is a replacement for chat. Barley says, how old do you think I am? I'm guessing you're over 20. Yeah, I'm pretty old. I'm older than you would think. Too old to be playing video games on YouTube, many would say. But I try not to give out personal information or guess personal information of people, but you're spelling things right in your type. And you're going in full sentences, and you're only occasionally using emojis, so I could probably guess that you are somewhere around mid-20s. You might even be late teens, 14, 16, 17, 18. He said, if I were you, I'd kill the guy with that card. Yeah, if I was paying attention to anything I was doing, I'd probably do a lot of different things differently. Let's see. so next turn I've got victory. There we go. I can't believe I'm actually winning here. A lot of people put stock in age when you really shouldn't, particularly in these days. The more I meet older people, the more older people I realize still act like they're 12 years old. Like, they can hide it, but when you get down to the core of them and how they think and how they act, a lot of really, really old people are extremely childish. It's basically a lie that adults have been telling kids that adults are mature. Because that's not what I've seen. Thank you. This is a compliment to me because I'm a little under a teen. Okay, well. Maturity and age are two very different things. I've come to realize is that there are really, really mature people that are really, really young, and they're wise and they think things through and they formulate entire ideas. And honestly, teenagers often have a lot more free time and energy to be wise and think things through. And then you get into this point when you have to work in the real world and it's just sucking all of your life out of you, and maybe you get married and you got a nagging spouse, and maybe you have a kid or 2 or 3 or 5 or 12 and they're sucking the life out of you too, and there's kind of this regression, or there's a lack of continued progress of becoming more mature because you're just stretched in so many different ways. At least that's one example of how I imagine it happens. Also, I've seen a lot of people that are just oblivious. That they think the way they live is mature, and then you look on the outside. You can't see any better example than looking at politicians from every side and from every country. Look at any politician and you can see that there's some major immaturity amongst most of them. There's some major obliviousness and ridiculousness that they do. Let's see, what was I talking about as far as video game news? Discord's new rich presence. It has integration with a lot of the new games. The big ones: Call of Duty World War II, Payday 2, Divinity Original Sin. None of these games actually that I play though.
What to do?
Which isn't super surprising because I do tend not to play the biggest of games. I really don't know about this whole idea of video games now integrating into Twitch, so that there are some games out there where you can watch other people open loot boxes and that lets you get loot boxes. Like that seems odd and antithetical to the idea of trying to get more people to buy and play your game. If it gets down to the point where only 1 out of 100 people actually buy video games and everybody else just watches that one person on Twitch, then video games are going to get very expensive. So yeah, there's just a lot of weirdness. Weirdness like me playing that coin when I didn't need to. See, Barley, I don't need to think about kids or marriage or anything yet when I'm, and then he says his age. I'll worry about not being rude. Yep, that's exactly what I meant. It's like, although on the other hand, giving it a few thoughts and planning now to think about how you would be when you're married and have kids and all of that probably will be helpful when you get around to that, because a lot of people kind of rush into marriage and don't think about it at all, and then they end up being awful spouses and awful parents. And you can always tell the awful parents and the awful spouses because they think they're doing a great job and they don't take any advice from anybody else whatsoever. Yeah, I guess there's really nothing more to say about Discord. Continue improving Discord. Maybe one day I'll find a way I can use you in some way.
I'm late. I'm late.
Until Dawn's developers were making a PlayStation VR psychological horror game called The Inpatient, and that game has been delayed. Let's see. It will now release on January 23rd, 2018 in Europe and the 22nd in the United States. Let's watch the trailer for that game since I don't recall ever seeing it before.
The menagerie is for guests only. The frosty snap ready.
Let's see. Until Dawn was the Butterfly Effect game that only came out for PlayStation, and I really wish it had come to PC, and it never did. And it looks like The Inpatient is going to look very similar to that, although it probably isn't going to play as much as Until Dawn even did, and Until Dawn barely had any cutscenes or anything in them.
This guy's tough.
Let's see. Because making a game for PlayStation VR is pretty tantamount to just making a walking simulator.
Hey, you want to buy a funnel cake?
Let's see. Their other project, which was a co-op military cover shooter called Bravo Team, will launch on March 7th in Europe and March 6th in the US. And their VR serial killer thriller Hidden Agenda has already been released in the US and will come out November 22nd in Europe. So they're releasing a lot of games. There was a lot of announcements of PlayStation VR games at Sony Paris, but I kind of feel like what they did is they told everybody to get those games out because they're going to abandon PlayStation VR, particularly since now Microsoft has abandoned the Kinect. I think VR on consoles are going to go back in the closet for a while. They're going to think things through some more, see if they can get the prices down. Almost certainly when the PlayStation 6 and the Xbox 2 comes out, I guess is what it will be called. When those come out, there probably will be a VR gimmick, and it will be integrated into the base price of a $300 console. But right now, VR is mostly just for very rich people, or people that are getting their VR sets for free for review. Let me check the chat. Let's see. Barley says, no, that's not my age. I wouldn't say it online unless I'm old enough to say it. Oh, he was just using a number as a age as an example. Okay, I see. I see what he's saying. Yeah, that's very wise. The internet wasn't totally a thing. Well, it certainly wasn't what it was like when I was a teenager. It existed, certainly, but it wasn't a communicative device. There was no chat rooms I was visiting or forums, which I imagine I could have done that. I just never got into it. And it certainly probably wouldn't have even interested me to go to forums or anything when I was a teenager. But I was on the internet, but I was strictly downloading, never uploading anything. It would have been really cool, but incredibly, insanely forward-thinking if I was uploading videos of me playing video games when I first got on the internet, but it would have been completely impossible too. There would have been no video formats like MP4 that you could actually encode in, because your video cards wouldn't have been powerful enough, and there would have been nowhere to put it, and I wouldn't have had a microphone or frankly even a quiet place to record. I really wish I did have like a recording of every video game I've ever played, going back as far as the first time I played a Nintendo Entertainment System, but sadly that doesn't exist. Maybe someday they'll figure a way they can just download memories, and then if I can find the memory in my head, I can upload it that way. But I certainly, even as a teenager, wouldn't have had anything faster than a DSL, so like double the speed of a 56K modem. Even trying to upload like an hour of content would have taken months. So yeah, that wouldn't have happened. Also, I wasn't playing PC games when I was a teenager. I was very much a Nintendo fan, playing Nintendo games. Let's see. Barley says, why don't the mix up VR with Kinect so you can be in the game completely, so it moves when you move and it sees what you see? Well, the PlayStation VR tried to do that. Microsoft bought, I think it was an Israeli company to own the technology that the Kinect uses, and so then they would have, Sony would have had to license it from Microsoft, and they certainly didn't want to do that. But the PlayStation VR did have technology to use the PlayStation 3 camera or the PlayStation Eye to see what you see, or see your controllers at least. And the HTC Vive, which is the Steam, the more Steam integrated PC VR system, does kind of have some room sensors on the front of it. Microsoft is very early in production of trying to make some system that would be able to identify objects around it, and Google's working on a project to identify objects with a camera. It's the massive amount of processing that would be necessary to know that a chair is a chair, and what to do when the VR people see a chair, or the VR equipment sees a chair. But both the consoles really don't even have enough processing power to just show graphics in VR, let alone have full augmented reality interactions. And it's a lot easier to imagine that we'll skip over that entire step, and there'll just be some kind of chip we put in people's brains to make them hallucinate, and then they see things via those chips instead of wearing headsets, and the human brain itself knows that it sees a chair too and integrates it into the hallucination. There is like one company that is trying to integrate real world elements to VR. So you walk around this warehouse with a VR equipment on, and one of the things they do is they have you cross a beam between two skyscrapers, and really you're just on the ground standing on a single piece of wood, so if you fall it's no big deal, but because your eyes see that you're up in the sky, you're much more afraid than you normally would be. But it costs too much to really do that for lots of people. Let's see, what I gotta kill something. What are we gonna kill? Really don't want to kill that, but what can I do? We do this, and then let's just do this. Let's just do this.
I was right all along.
And then in the turn there. Let's see. I don't see why Microsoft, Sony, and Steam all work together to make one big console. They could get a massive fortune each. It has to do with corporate politics. Like, you're not wrong. All the consoles in this generation, for the pretty much the first time, are using off-the-shelf computer parts. So effectively, the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, and the Switch are just PCs, which is what Steam is for. So if they could just all agree to share the license on one standard piece of equipment, then they could sell this unified console system and only have to develop and produce the one thing. However, it doesn't work because there's CEOs at Microsoft that want to push things like the Kinect, and then there's CEOs at Sony that want to push things like the PlayStation Network, and who gets money when something is bought digitally, and do they want to split the sales of something digitally 3 different ways or 4 different ways between Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, and Steam, and they don't. And if the PlayStation wants to add a new accessory, they don't want to have to go to Microsoft or Steam, Valve, or Nintendo and get permission. Also, there's the Pepsi-Coke argument. Like, if all Pepsi was out of production, they just stopped making Pepsi, that's not going to force all the Pepsi drinkers right now to go drink Coca-Cola. Instead, it's much better to actually just have Pepsi and Coca-Cola and expand the audience through that. Yeah, there's just a lot of, like, logically, in a socialist world where people weren't trying to compete against each other and make more money and control power, if everybody was just a logical machine and they just wanted to make the best console ever and sell it, and that would work. But it's just not how competition works, particularly in the United States. Well, stay tuned if you're watching live. Stay tuned if you're watching live. That's it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.